everybody, my name is Chef Brian Peffley. I'm the pastry art instructor at the Lebanon County Career and Technology Center. You're in my kitchen at home right now, and we are going to present to you Pate Choux. Many of you have also heard it called eclair paste or choux paste, but most commonly everybody knows it as the product that it produces, eclairs and cream puffs. So today I already went ahead and wiped down my area and washed my hands. We're going to talk specifically about the names of pate and choux. Pate meaning paste and choux meaning cabbage. The small little cream puffs resemble the shape of a cabbage. The task number that we will be using this is 514 in the Pennsylvania Program of Study, or the POS, for baking and pastry. Now we will go into all the tools necessary to complete this product.
The tools needed for pate choux are a small sauce pot and a wooden spoon, a mixing bowl and a paddle, a pastry bag, and assorted pastry tips, a sheet pan, and parchment paper. Preset your sheet pan by drawing circles of the size of the cream puff you want to pipe out. The eclairs are done the same way, 3-inch lines on the parchment paper to the length that you want the eclair to be. Turn the parchment paper over before piping.
The ingredients that you need to produce pate choux are 1 cup of water, 4 ounces of butter, unsalted, 1 tablespoon of sugar, a ½ teaspoon of salt, 5½ ounces of bread flour, and 4 to 5 eggs. To get started on making pate choux, we're first going to start with our small sauce pot. We're going to add our 1 cup of water. We're going to then add our butter or fat that can be used. Some recipes do call for shortening, and we're going to go ahead and melt this down. As this is melting down, we want to bring this product here to a boil. We can also go ahead and add our sugar, and we can also add our salt. The uniqueness of pate choux is it starts on the stove, but it will actually finish on the mixer. So we're going to go ahead and melt down our fat and try to bring this water back up to a boil. Now there are some recipes that are out there that will use milk instead of water. Some will use cream. Some will use shortening instead of butter. And some will use a combination of those. So as we're stirring this, our goal is to melt down our fat and bring the liquid to a boil. While this is happening, I have my bread flour nearby, and I'm going to go ahead and add that once the fat has completely melted, and I bring it to a boil. A helpful hint that you want to use is always use a wooden spoon, not a metal spoon. Metal conducts heat, which you could end up burning your hand. The other thing too is the metal scrapes and can actually make your pate choux turn gray. As you can see, it's coming to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and add my flour and stir that in. I'm going to turn my heat down to low, and I'm going to stir this, and I'm going to create a paste. It has the consistency of almost looking like thick mashed potatoes. So the goal here is to go ahead and cook this out. And again, remember to turn your heat down, as I did. And I'm going to form this paste. And then from this stage, we're going to transfer it into our mixing bowl. Okay, we've taken our dough, and we're going to go ahead and add it to our mixing bowl. And then we're going to put it onto our machine. Always make sure that your mixer is on first speed before you get started. Put our paddle attachment on. We're going to go ahead and raise our bowl. And now we're going to start it and let it mix. What our goal is to get rid of some of the heat and lower the temperature, because if we started adding our eggs right now, they would cook and the protein, and we'd add scrambled eggs in our product. So I'm going to get this mixed for about a minute, and then I'm going to slowly add our eggs, and we will add our eggs one at a time. We're going to go ahead and add our first egg. We're gonna let that mix until the egg is completely incorporated into the paste. We're gonna go ahead and add our second egg. When you add your second egg, a lot of students look at it and it almost perceives that it has curdled or is not mixing correctly. Just let it keep mixing. We're gonna add our third egg. As you can see, our mixture is starting to get more soft and pliable. Know that when you're adding your eggs, they are a variable, which means sometimes you only need 3 eggs, sometimes you need 4 eggs, sometimes you need 5 eggs. It all depends on how it is being produced. But I'm going to give you 2 helpful hints of what you're looking for to achieve the right consistency. Before I add my 4th egg, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my dough. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and make an adjustment. It's a little bit stiff right now, but as you can see, it's starting to get a shine to it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add 1 more egg and see what the product looks like. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a sheen. You can pick it up on the light. The other thing I like to do as I teach my students is a stretch test. So if you take the dough between your fingers and you stretch, you should have an elastic consistency and it should consistently stretch between my 2 fingers. I have reached the consistency that I am looking for, so I'm gonna go ahead now and from this stage, I'm gonna go into piping into the products that I wanna produce. So our pate choux is done, and now we're gonna go ahead and start piping out the products. Some of the many things that you can make are cream puffs and eclairs, and that's where we're gonna start. I'm gonna first start talking about how to use the pastry bag. So in this situation, we are going to be using large tips where we do not need the couplers and the rings. So I'm gonna take my pastry bag, I'm gonna roll it over my hand. I'm gonna take my large tip, my straight tip, and put it inside my bag. Work that all the way to the end. Now, a helpful tip is if the product was loose, we can always twist our bag and stick it in the back end of our tip and create a little dam that prevents the product from running through the bag. But in this situation, this paste is pretty thick, so I don't have to worry about it running through my bag, and I do not need to create that dam. I'm gonna go ahead and take my paste, and I'm not gonna put all of it in the bag. One of the main problem students I've noticed is they overfill their pastry bag. So we're gonna go ahead and use that lip. Try to give about 2 inches from your bag so that the product stays in. The key is making sure that you have nothing on the outside of the bag, because if it's on the outside of the bag, it's gonna end up on you. So we're gonna go ahead and fill the bag. And the first 2 items that we're going to produce are cream puffs and eclairs. Now for gnocchi, we're gonna go ahead and use a 2-inch cream puff, and for an eclair, we're looking at a 3-inch eclair. Well, one of the first things I like to do is I like to take a little bit of my pate choux and I like to put it underneath my parchment paper. It helps hold it down onto the sheet pan. Then I'm going to take my straight tip and my pastry bag. I'm going to twist my bag so it's nice and tight in my hand. I'm going to squeeze with this hand, and I'm going to use this hand as my guide. I'm going to go ahead and put my pastry tip straight down, and I'm going to pipe, 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 pipe. Then I'm going to stop squeezing, and I'm going to turn it out. Let's try that again, more vertical. Straight down into the product, expand, expand, squeeze, stop squeezing, and slowly twist. You can always take a little water, tap it on the top. Know that the circle that you drew on the opposite side of the parchment paper is just a guide and a reference. It's just to give you an example of what the diameter of the cream puff should be. You can also scoop them, and know that if you can scoop them large, medium, and small, smaller ones are referred to as profiteroles, and one of those products that you can produce from that is a croquembouche. As we did with the cream puffs, we were straight up and down. With the eclairs, we're going to come on the angle on a side, and we're going to squeeze, squeeze, consistent pressure, slowly pulling backwards. We stop squeezing and go ahead and cut off the excess. That little tail, very easily, we can just tuck back with a wet finger with a little water, and we end up with our 3-inch eclair. From here, we're gonna go ahead and put it into the oven. We have our cream puffs and our eclairs, and I preheated my oven for 375, and I have it on a convection setting. If you don't have a convection oven at home, conventional is fine, but I would move it up to about 400. So from this point, it's gonna go into the oven. I'm gonna have it bake for about 20 minutes. I'm gonna check it, and then I'm gonna check it every 5 minutes then after, and it should take about 40 minutes total in baking time. As the product is baking, I want to talk a little bit about why I put the eclairs and the cream puffs on the same sheet pan. Well, they're both about the same size and both about the same weight. So always remember, whenever you're baking anything, always keep the same sizes. Even if it's the same product, make sure they're the same size. I'm not going to show you some other items that can be produced from Pate Choux, such as profiteroles. A profiterole, as I said before, is a very small petite cream puff. We're going to use an ice cream scoop. I'm going to level, even scoop of the Pate Choux. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 or 3 of these. These can be used also sweet or savory, and that's the beautiful thing about Pate Choux. They can either be filled with a cream that is sweet and served as a dessert, or it could be filled with something like ham salad or chicken salad or tuna salad, and then can be served as a canapé or an hors d'oeuvre. The next product I want to show you is making a cream puff swan. So what I did was I took my pastry bag, took out my straight tip, and added a star tip, a large star tip, and this is going to create the body of the swan. So as we start, same angle like we did the eclairs. I'm going to squeeze, and then I'm going to pull down and stop squeezing. Again, I'm going to squeeze, a lot of pressure, keep the tip in, and then I'm going to slowly pull out. Squeeze a lot of pressure and slowly pull down. And we're going to create shells. Try to keep them consistently the same size. After completing the swan bases, I'm now going to go ahead and do the neck and the head for the swan. So I have my star tip, and a lot of times students take out the tip, but it's not necessary. You can take the large tip and just put it right over top of the large one, holding it in place, and continue to pipe. To make the head, I'm going to squeeze, and as I'm squeezing, I'm going to come around and create a question mark, and then I'm going to go ahead and create its beak. So again, we're going to create its head, come around, create its neck, cut that off, and go ahead and create its beak. As you can see, they are starting to rise. So the key is what makes it rise. Since there is no yeast, there is no baking powder, and there is no baking soda. Well, what makes it rise is we have trapped liquid inside the product, and now it is steam that is being created, and the steam is what makes the product rise. The last product I'd like to show you is a garnish, and that would be a choux lattice that would go on top of either a consommé or a soup, or it could also be a decoration on a gâteau or torte. The Pate Choux lattice, or choux lattice, is the straight tip that I used for the neck for the swan. I'm going to go ahead and pipe across 3 cylinders, and then on an angle, I'm going to go ahead and pipe just like the top of a lattice pie. Then to complete it, I'm going to take a little bit of poppy seed. I'm going to sprinkle it across the top, and that will create a little bit of contrast. One of the things that I wanted to show too is many people think that cream puffs can only be done with a straight tip, but in fact it can be done with a star tip as well. Squeezing a base, coming around counterclockwise, stop squeezing, and cut the product off. So you can make a cream puff using a star tip, and you can also make an eclair with the star tip. Okay, as you can see, we have finished our baked Pate Choux items. We're going to first start off here with our swan, the heads, and the bodies. Okay, what I want to go ahead and show you how to fill the bottom. So the bottom is not only the base and the body of the swan, but it's also going to be the wings. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn this to the side, slice the shell in half. That's going to be my base, and then I'm going to take my top part of my shell, slice it lengthwise, and these are going to create my wings for my swan. I'm going to go ahead and plate. I have my base, put that on my plate. I have some whipped cream. You can use pastry cream or any type of French cream that you want to put inside. I'm going to take my shell and I'm going to put and do a small pigtail inside to create. Now you could put a filling on the bottom and then put the cream on top. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my wings that I cut. I'm going to stick them into my base, and then I'm going to go ahead and put on my neck and my head. One of the items that I'm going to show you how to plate is the cream puff. I'm going to go ahead and slice it in half. As you can see, it's nice and hollow inside, which is what I'm looking for. And I'm just going to use some items that I had here at home. I'm going to go ahead and fill it with some ice cream. Put a dollop of ice cream in the center. And I have some cherry pie filling. I'm just going to put on top of that. Then I'm going to go ahead and top it. And then a little powdered sugar on top.